So for those of you who do follow the stream, you might have noticed that we actually reached our solo queue to Immortal this season again. And there are a lot of things that I learned along the way that I wish to share with you guys that, you know, I hope that you guys don't have to learn the hard way, right? So there are some things that I pick up on. There are things that I notice, like tendencies of why I lose games or why I win games. And I kind of want to talk about that. That way we can kind of learn together. I can kind of share the information that I learned, like I said, that way you don't have to learn it yourself. But I feel like it's a good way for us to communicate. I feel like it's a good way for my channel to kind of get to know me in a better way, right? Because I do upload a lot of highlights, but I don't really talk too much like I used to. So for those of you who are new to the channel, I wish that you guys can get to know me a little bit more. And also, if you guys have any questions about when I stream, or like any questions about the game or what I think about certain things in the game, then you can go ahead and ask me in the comments below. I always answer. Or you can go ahead and check out my Twitch. I do stream almost every single day, and we do play a rank. Sometimes we play with the homies, right? So you guys can go ahead and check that out, and I'll leave the link for that in the description below. But other than that, I guess we can get started. One of the main things I want to talk about today, I know it's my first thing I'm going to talk about, but it's very important. And that is the fact that a duelist role is not very well understood by a lot of the people, even in higher ranks. And I'm not saying that it's not just the duelist, right? It's the people that play with duelists on their team that might not understand. And what I mean by that is, first let's start off with the actual duelists themselves, right? So there are times when I get duelists that lurk or just watch flank, right? And it's a meme, I know, it's an online meme that, hey, that duelist just watches flank all day, or he doesn't enter correctly, right? So a duelist is not meant to carry you through the game, okay? If you get an insta-log Jet on your team, she's not meant to drop 45 kills and carry you to the next game just because she's a duelist, right? They obviously have roles that you have to do, and while getting kills is very important as the duelist because it makes it easier for your team to kind of handle the situation, it is not the main role of their job. What a duelist is supposed to do is create space for their team to take site. So for example, whenever a Jet goes up onto site, she dashes into her smoke and onto site, right? So what does that do? Well, first of all, that takes the eyes off the choke point. So any bomb site has a choke point where the attackers have to walk through. And as a defender, if you're looking at that one choke point and you have all this utility to watch that choke point, it's not that hard to handle, right? So for example, if you have a Killjoy or you're an Astra and you have your stars in front of the choke point and you have a turret, a KJ turret, it's going to be very hard for the attackers to just come in willy-nilly, right? They're going to have to deal with a lot of stuff. But once that Jet dashes in, it becomes a whole different story, because not as the defender, you do not only have to watch the choke, but you have to watch the Jet that's already on site in her smoke. And you kind of have to pick. It's going to be a 50-50 whether you look at the Jet or you look at the enemy team, right? So that is your main job as a duelist. You're supposed to create space. Now, the same can be said for any duelist, because they have a kit that is unlike any other kit, you know, in the game. They're obviously meant to take site. A Jet can dash in, Phoenix can blind and wall in, you know, Yoru can teleport in even. So this is your job, and there are a lot of people that don't do it correctly. If you're going to be picking a duelist and you want to rank up, you will have to make sure that you're entering for your team and allowing them to come in after you. You have to realize that you're meant to die. That's kind of your job. You're meant to die. That way the agents on your team that can hold the bomb site once it's taken can stay alive. If you make the Killjoy entry first because you're too scared to entry as a Jet, for example, and the Killjoy dies, what can a Jet do to hold the bomb site rather than just get kills, right? If a Jet dies early on, but they take the bomb site and Killjoy is there, you know, and she's able to hold bombs, she has a turret, she has mollies, she has an alarm bot, she has a lot of stuff that can help her hold on to the site. People think Sentinels are useless on attack, but they're actually really good once a bomb site is taken, so you need a good duelist to be able to help you do that. Now, the same can be said for when playing with duelists, right? Sometimes whenever I'm on a losing streak, I'll auto-log duelist because I feel like I do the job correctly. And my win rate with Jet is super high, but it's not because I'm a super cracked ass Jet, right, that gets like a million knife kills a game, but it's because I play the role correctly and I entry for my team. Even when I bottom frag after insta-locking Jet, I'm still entering for my team and I'm still allowing them to get onto site. And that is the most important thing that you have to do. But there are people that also don't know how to play around a duelist, which is also very important. So if you say, okay, my duelist my duelist enters site, right? And I play Killjoy, for example. Pretend you're a Killjoy main. And they say, okay, I'm a Killjoy main, but my duelist is entering site and we're losing. Okay, but there's a lot of times when I'm playing Jet, I dash in, you know, I'll get a kill on site sometimes and then I'll die and I'm waiting for me to be traded out. and I see my entire team at the choke point, just standing there because they didn't enter site. If you're going to be playing with the Duelist, ask them to calm when they're about to enter, and you have to enter with them. Don't bait them. If the Duelist enters site and they die and you don't trade them out, they just died for nothing and you gained nothing out of the situation. And that is not only the most aggravating thing as a player, but as a Duelist, you feel like you did your job perfectly and you get a death that doesn't count for anything. So you don't get anything out of it. So, oh, sorry, I'm choking. So whenever you get a Duelist that is kind of salty after a few rounds, it might be because you didn't follow them in. And people don't notice that this is a problem, but this is a huge problem. Even in higher ranks, people are scared to enter, especially when there's like a Killjoy or a Cypher on site, because they don't want to be that person to hit the trap or get hit by the turret and then die right afterwards after the Sentinel peaks, right? But you have to enter site with your Duelist. And I feel like this Duelist role is one of the most complex but misunderstood things in Valorant, because people don't understand how to play the role or how to play around the role. So that is the first thing that I wanted to talk about. Okay, moving on to the second thing. People don't know how to eco. Ecoing is a big part of Valorant because obviously it has a money system, right, like CSGO. But people don't really know how to play around it for some reason. So obviously you want to save up to be able to buy good guns, and you don't want to be forcing every round, because then if not, you're going to have, you know, it's better to have a shitty round with pistols and then have a rifle for 2 rounds than to have a scout every single round, right? Like the odds are you're going to win more with your rifles versus the other like half buys that you normally buy. So you want to make sure you have enough. But there are some things that people do that kind of throw rounds away. So whenever the enemy team is ecoing and you have a rifle, it is almost never a good idea to push up to them. People like to eco frag, as they call it. So say you're like 2 and 9, right? Say you're eating bodied this game, and you notice the enemy team is saving. So you're like, okay, well, I have a rifle and they're saving, so I'm gonna go up, try to get some kills, you know, build up my ult, or that way I won't look that bad on the leaderboard. Okay, well, let's think about the problems of that. If that is what you were to do, you know, people on eco rounds like to do dumbass shit because they're saving anyway. Like, what's the point, right? Like, sometimes if I'm saving, we all buy frenzies and we all run it down mid. It's a stupid fucking plan, but it'll work sometimes because we're saving. Why not try it, right? Catch them off guard. So say, for example, you want to push up to get more kills and you have a rifle and the enemy team is saving, you could die and give the enemy team your rifle. Once the enemy team has a gun, it makes it a lot harder to deal with them, because they can kind of recycle that gun. Say you drop a Vandal and you give it to Jet. The Jet that kills you picks it up, right? She enters site, she dies, and then her Astra picks up the rifle. And guess what? Now that she has the rifle. And it just makes it a whole lot harder for you to handle. So it is always better to just play back, play distance, especially whenever they're saving, because a lot of people buy deagles. At long range, the scout is pretty much the only thing that can kind of like hurt you, right? So play smart whenever you have a buy round and the enemy team is saving. Don't push up, don't give them guns, and you should win a lot more rounds. I lose a lot of rounds because I have teammates on my team that try to push up, try to get kills, try to build up orb, you know, just kind of build up their confidence and shit on these kids that are, you know, with pistols, right? But there's a lot of rounds that are thrown like that, so don't do that. Second of all is whenever you are saving, you want to try to do something different. Like, it's okay to play defaults. You don't have to rush something with pistols because it's most likely not going to work, right? It's always better to play defaults, I think. Try to get a pick off. Sometimes you can get a gun off somebody who's being impatient. Maybe you're attacking and you're saving, and then these guys just push up randomly because, you know, they haven't seen any action all around and they want to like fight someone. So they'll push up, you catch them on the flank, and you get a gun. So don't be afraid to try new shit whenever you're ecoing, and also don't be afraid to just take your time with the round. You know, you're trying to get a gun. That's the whole point. Once you get a gun, it's go time. But until then, it's okay to waste time. You're probably gonna lose the round anyway, so just try to cheese it as much as you can. And try to hold angles. Try to wait for them to come out and become impatient. And now, whenever you're buying and the enemy team is saving, right, and you're attacking, okay, so you're on attacking now, and your whole team has rifles and the enemy team has like shotguns or pistols or whatever, you always want to push something together. Okay, odds are you're gonna have 2-3 people max on a bomb site. If your whole team is pushing together and you guys have rifles, the last thing you want to do is have someone lurk and die to a shotgun somewhere else super far from the team where that gun cannot be recovered. Okay, the odds of you winning a 5v2 or 3, like I said, on bomb site with rifles while they have like pistols and shit is super high. So whenever you're buying, I'm sorry, and they're saving, you want to make sure that you always stick together and just shit on a bomb site. Okay, the odds of them stacking it are low, so you're most likely gonna win that round. Don't go lurking, don't go giving them a chance to get a free gun without the possibility of them being traded out. That's a big throw, and I see that all the time. Like, sometimes there's 3 or 4 of us pushing a bomb site, and we all have rifles, and then I have the one Jet that's walking around the other side of the map with her rifle, and then she dies to a breach in a corner with a shotty, but guess what? That breach has a rifle now. And we have to deal with it whenever he comes to the bomb site that we chose to push, right? So it's always better to just stick together. If you're buying rifles and they're saving, stick together, push together, do not lurk, and you should pretty much get that round for free. Now moving on to our next tip is people playing either too passive or too aggressive. I noticed that when people are either aggressive or passive, they're always leaning towards one side and just that side. So for example, when I see aggressive players on my team, they're always aggressive, right? Like they just push all the time, they ego peek shit. And whenever people play too passive, they're always just really passive, and that can fuck you up, right? Like obviously whenever you lose a game, sometimes it's not necessarily that they're better than you or that you're better than them. It's because they counter your playstyle, for example. So if you notice that you're playing too passive and they're just kind of walking up on you and clearing you for free, then try to play aggressive. Like I feel like there's a good balance. A good Valorant player has a balance between knowing when to play aggressive and when to play passive. If you haven't pushed up in a few rounds, don't be afraid to push up out of a bomb site, right? If you push up out of a bomb site and you don't see anybody there, like say you're on Haven and you're defending A, right? And you push up out of A and you see nobody in lobby, then guess what? That's a whole section of the map that you don't have to worry about, and you can kind of calm that to your team. You can be like, hey, I'm up on A lobby and there's nobody here, so just keep an eye on B and C. And guess what? Your whole team can shift towards B and C, and that's that. And if the enemy team does decide to be there, at least you'll be in lobby there to stop them while they rotate, right? So don't be afraid to be aggressive. If you are a very scared player, you have to have confidence. But also, if you're somebody who is peeking all the time and you keep getting bodied, and you know the round starts off as a 4v5 because you keep dying every round to that one dude that keeps on peeking you and making fun of you in the chat, don't keep on peeking, man. Like, don't ego peek, you know? Like, you have to know your abilities, okay? It doesn't mean they're better than you if they kill you at the beginning of every round. It just means that maybe they have better util, better positioning, you know? It can be a lot of variables, okay? Don't think they're better than you just because you lose a 1v1, you know, a few times in a row. You want to try to find that sweet spot. Try to mix it up. Like, if your team doesn't know, if the enemy team doesn't know what you're doing, like, they're going to be panicking, man. Like, if you peek hookah on the 3rd round and then you don't peek it again to the 9th round, like, when are they ever going to see that coming, right? Say you shit on them. Say you peek out a hookah on buying once, right? And then you shit on all 3 of them. You kill 3 or 4, right? They're going to be like, fuck, man, we always have to worry about that because he might do it again, right? And then you wait a few rounds and then they'll kind of forget about it. They'll be like, yeah, maybe he won't do it again. And then you do it again. Like, you catch him off guard. And that is the key to being, like, consistently good at Valorant. You have to think outside the box, and you have to kind of play each round differently. Don't hold the same spot every round. Try different stuff. And what I feel like works a lot for me, especially whenever I'm like losing a game, is when we tend to move around a lot. So like, I'll tell my team, okay, I held A for 2 rounds, let me go C this time, right? And then I'll go C and the dude that was on C comes A. Well, guess what? Now the enemy team has to worry about that variable too, because sometimes whenever I'm playing and we're shooting on one guy in particular, say that they have a Sova that's like 1 in 15, right? I'm like, yo, this Sova's getting bodied. Wherever this Sova is, I want to go. And say he plays C. If you play C every round, guess what? I'm going to go C every round too. Like, I'm going to take advantage of that Sova, because obviously there's someone on the team that is not playing as good as they should, right? So by mixing up your team members around the map when defending, the enemy team won't know what to hit because it's going to be different every single time, right? Like, they might, if they do want to take a bomb site with a certain person in it, say that you have a KO on your team that's like 5 and 15, right? They're going to be like, okay, I want to go wherever KO is. Okay, well, guess what? They have to not only get to the bomb site to see if he's there, but they have to use util to see if he's there as well. So they might have to Sova drone, they might have to Sova recon, they might have to KO knife to check if that KO is there. So you make it a lot harder for them. So don't be afraid to change up sites. It's better that you know how to play different stuff anyway, right? Like, if you just know how to play Garage on Haven, for example, you're pretty much useless if someone takes that spot. So you want to learn how to play every single bomb site and play every single role. But you also have to try to mix it up, man. Like, you know, it's a game at the end of the day, but it's not just aim. It's not an aim game. You want to try to get into the enemy team's mind, because that's kind of the point of Valorant. People think it's just mechanical skill, which is very much an important thing in the game, but you have a lot more capability for outplays, for brain power, for things that you can do to mix it up that'll cause the enemy team to kind of panic, and this is a very important thing to consider. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about today is the tilting. Now, tilting is everywhere, okay? Everybody tilts in every single rank, but tilting can cause a lot of problems that might cause you some elo loss if you don't handle them correctly. So, one thing you have to realize, there are things in the game that are going to happen that are going to seem like the most unluckiest thing ever, and it's going to seem like they only happen to you, and that is not the case, okay? You have to stop worrying about things that you can't control. So for example, if you get sprayed through smokes 6 times in one game, guess what? That's not your fault. Okay, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. All the games you play, the odds are that eventually you're gonna have a game that everything's gonna go wrong. Okay, you have a lot of 50-50s in Valorant every single game. So the odds of you getting a game where everything goes wrong every time is gonna happen, right? It's gonna happen eventually. So you have to stop tilting at these things because these are not things you can control. If you want to get mad at something, you should get mad at yourself for whiffing shots or, you know, playing it stupid or something like that. Like, you want to try to use the anger you get in a positive way. So for example, if I whiff a whole phantom spray on somebody, I'll be like, okay, let me go to the range later on and practice my phantom spray, right? Use it positively. Use it to grow. Use it to become a better player. Don't be that person that gets mad at things that you really just cannot do anything about, right? Like, say you kill the entire enemy attacking team on C, right? Say you kill 4 of them and you're looking for the last guy, and then the last dude is on A short, just a place where he shouldn't be. Like, he has no business being there, but he's lurking, and he kills you. Don't tilt at it, you know? Like, that guy shouldn't have been there in the first place. There's no reason that you should be mad because you didn't do anything bad. He just happened to be in a dumb place, and guess what? He cost his team the round for not helping them, right? So same thing could be said for being spammed through smokes, for being wallbanged. Sometimes people wallbang random shit and they just happen to get to you. You know, people, sometimes you're behind someone and you're trying to go for a big play by, you know, trigger disciplining someone. Like, you're trying to get more people, and then, like, for example, like, sometimes I'm on bind and I'm holding B and I get up on the boxes on the left side of B, right? B main. And I'm just hiding there. Sometimes I see 2 or 3 people walk by and the 4th one checks it. And I'm just like, yo, if 3 of your teammates walk by, why would you check it if you're the 4th dude inside, right? It's super unlucky. But it happens, and it's not anyone's fault, right? It's my fault for not shooting earlier, right? So there are a lot of things like that that are going to happen, and you have to learn to deal with it, because being tilted can make you play so bad. You'll play faster, and sometimes, you know, you'll just end up losing rounds that you shouldn't have lost because you're mad, and you want to try to kill them as fast as possible. So tilting is something that you want to use to your advantage by learning to master the things that you get mad about. And you have to stop getting mad at things that you have no control over. The same can be said for teammates. Well, I know, trust me, I solo queue when I got to Immortal. I know how teammates can be. Valorant, for some reason, is very wishy-washy with the rating system, the ranking system, I mean. So sometimes you have people in your game that don't seem like they should be there. And trust me, I 100% understand. But you can't blame your team every game. Don't be that dude, okay? Like, I know that sometimes I get mad at my team because they do dumb shit, right? But there's some games that I lose because it's me, right? It's not just my team, it's all of us. We all play bad. We all throw rounds that we shouldn't have thrown, or we peek things we shouldn't have peeked, you know? You have to try to find the flaws in yourself in that game before you go onto your teammate. Because, like, sometimes I'll drop 35 kills, right? And they're impact frags. And okay, like, my team, you know, the second highest fragger was like 10 kills. Like, I get it. Okay, that really is the team diff there. But, you know, if I have 20 kills and then the second fragger has 18 kills and then the next guy has 17 kills, you know, the odds are that we just lost the game. It wasn't anyone's fault. It wasn't because anybody didn't get more kills. It wasn't because, you know, like, my teammates didn't help me get more kills. Like, it's just, that's a team diff there. You know, like, you have to understand that you can't be blaming your teammates for everything, because that really stops your growth as a player. You want to make sure that every game that you lose is a learning experience and you pick something out of it. Instead of trying to blame your, like, if you blame your team, then guess what? You're not going to get anything out of that loss. You're going to say, okay, well, I should have won that if my team wasn't so shit. Well, what did you learn? Like, you know, it's going to be the same thing next game. If you have bad teammates, you have to learn to deal with it. But if you have an excuse for every time you lose, then when are you ever going to get better as a person? You know, if you whiff a full Vandal spray and then you get mad at the dude for being there in the first place, then you're never going to work on that Vandal spray. Like, when are you ever going to go back and actually work on the problem that you have? So you want to make sure that whenever you do blame somebody, you try to blame yourself first. And I don't mean this in a negative way. Don't like shit yourself on it, like if you have a bad game, but try to fix the problems you have first before you go to your teammates, because 80% of the time, I guarantee you, it is not your teammates. I'm a big like believer in this, that people that just blame their teammates are people that do not want to see improvement in themselves, and they might blame their teammates because of their ego. You know, they don't want to say like, hey, I messed up, or they're afraid to say that they messed up. But nobody's perfect, right? Like, everyone's learning. Even people in the highest rank, people like Tarek, Tens, Sinatra, lose games because they mess up. They throw around, they lose, they don't get kills, or like, you know, they don't play their role correctly. And doesn't mean they're bad players, right? But it's just, we're human. We're not robots, right? Even the best player in the world is not going to win every single game, and they're not going to play perfect every single game, because there's so many variables in this game that we have to worry about. But they don't go around blaming their team. You know, they understand. People that are good at the game understand what they do wrong, and they adjust for it. So you have to do the same. Whenever you, the more you play, you're going to learn what you're doing wrong. Like, sometimes when I die, I'm like, okay, I shouldn't have peeked that, right? And I do YouTube, so sometimes I'll go for dumb plays, that way I can try to get a clip. But I understand, like, I know what I'm doing wrong, but I choose to do it for the YouTube, right? But I understand, like, sometimes I fuck up. If I lose, I've lost games before because I go for the YouTube clip, and I ended up, you know, dying early, and it makes it harder for my team that are alive. So you have to understand that, like, there's nothing wrong with making mistakes. If somebody on your team thinks that you're bad, just don't worry about it. Like, honestly, you know what you're capable of. You know, you're at that rank for a reason, so that dude shouldn't be telling you anything because you're the same rank. Just don't stress over it. Don't tilt. Learn to appreciate the game and have fun. And I guarantee you that you will not only enjoy the game more, but you'll get a lot more wins because you're treating it as a fun event. If you're just worried about like not tilting and getting kills and not dying, like, you're gonna be all stiff and you're not gonna play as good as you are. And I know a lot of you are really good out there, and tilt can just bring that down. Like, trust me, I know a lot of people that I've played with that tilt really hard, and guess what? Their gameplay goes down with them. So keep a positive mindset, and I guarantee you'll win a lot more games. But anyways, guys, thank y'all so much for watching the whole video. If you're here this long, I really love making these type of videos, and I'm thinking of making a lot more of them. Informational videos are something that give me a little bit more purpose than just highlight videos, because I feel like I'm actually helping people out there that are trying to rank up and get better at Valorant. So I hope y'all enjoyed it. Anyway, like I said before, I do stream almost every single day, so I'll leave the link for that in the description below. Also, I do have a TikTok, and I post clips there. I post some guides too. So I'll also leave the link for that in the description. I know most of you have TikTok, so, you know, go ahead and follow. But yeah, thank y'all so much for being here, guys. I hope y'all enjoyed it, and I will see you all in the next video. Later.